Welcome to the first video of the TorqueScript video series. This series has been designed for Torque 3D, Torque 2D, and iTorque 2D. You're going to be learning how to use the console, how to make expressions, how to use variables, arrays, and if statements. First thing we're going to check out is how to use the console. You can open the console using the tilde key, which is the key right next to the 1 key. And you can do this in any running game of Torque 2D, Torque 3D, and iTorque 2D. I'm going to open a running game of Torque 2D. To make a running game, just play the Play Scene button. I have a blank project running right here. And I'm going to enter some code. I'm going to enter echo, a function used to display text to the screen. And I'm going to type in some text in quotations. This displays some text. So this is actually TorqueScript code that has been compiled at runtime. And let's check out how to use mathematical expressions. Okay, mathematical expressions are simply add, subtract, divide, multiply. Let's check out a couple examples. I'm going to type in an expression here in the echo command so it'll be displayed afterwards. I'm going to type in 5 plus 6 divided by 5.5. Okay. 6 divided by 5.5 is done first, and then 5 is added to it. If you want to change the order of operations, you can use parentheses. So change the outcome to 2. Okay. In this section, you're going to learn how to use variables. Variables are a name that attaches, or rather that points to an address in memory or some data in memory. In the example below, the variable name points to the text Kevin O'Flaherty. Variables can either be local or global. Local variables are marked by %, and they will go out of scope at the end of functions. Global variables, marked by a $, are always accessible, and we're going to be using these in the console because local variables will go out of scope instantly. The example below, name equals Laura. This is a textual example. Age equals 20 is a number example, and male equals false is a Boolean example. Booleans can also be represented by zeros and ones, where 0 is false and 1 is true. The interesting thing about variables is that there's only one data type in TorqueScript. TorqueScript simulates integers, floats, strings, and booleans by converting them. I'm going to open the console and prove this to you. I'm going to echo, let's say, 1. Okay, 1's displayed. Now I'm going to echo 1.0, and it's going to also display 1. Now I'm going to echo true. It's also going to display 1. Okay. So as you can see, these have all been processed down to the same thing. In this section, we'll cover arrays. Arrays are useful for storing large amounts of variable referenced by a single variable name. You can pick the different slots of the array by using a number. The cool thing about arrays in TorqueScript is that you don't have to define a size. It is dynamically allocated and sorted, so you can skip numbers without defining a large array. This is true for the example below. The first slot 0 is true. First slot 1 is also true. Slot 701, which in normal programming languages would mean there are 702 elements, is also equal to true. However, in TorqueScript, there is only 3 elements so far. Okay. Let's show an example in the console. I'm just going to make an array called names. I'm going to set the slot 0 to equal my name, Kevin O'Flaherty. I'm going to set the second slot to my team members. First, Laura Polygonus. And I'm going to set slot number 1. Actually, I'm going to set slot 100,000 to Ryan Griffin. This will prove that arrays are dynamically created and that each slot between 0 and 100,000 do not have to be created in order to use slot 100,000. As you can see, it's instantly created. Okay, let's prove that these are actually in memory. I'm going to display my name, then Laura's name, and Ryan's name. Space is useful for a space character in between different strings. Oops, I messed up the slot number. It should be 100,000. Did I mistype it? Yes, I did. Names. Okay. The good example from the mess up is that arrays are, by default, entered to 0 text or false in the case of a Boolean. In the next section, we're going to look at multidimensional arrays. Multidimensional arrays allow 2 slots to determine which variable is accessed. In the case of the first one, 0, 0, is defined as rook. In memory, this can somewhat be simulated as a chessboard, and rook will be placed in the top left-hand corner. Knight, 1, 0, would be here. Bishop, which is 2 columns over, 7 columns down, is right here. 6, 4, which is a null string, is the default value and is all these squares. In this last section, I'll be teaching you how to use if statements. If statements are ways of executing different paths of code by a condition. Conditions are what determine whether a piece of code is executed. The following operators can be used in a condition: greater than and equal, less than equal, and, or, equals. Note you must use double equals for numbers, and $ equals, which is equal for strings. Okay, I'm just going to open up the console and create a few examples. Actually, I'm going to open up Notepad so we can enter multiple lines at a time and then copy them into code, or copy them into the console where it's only one line. So I'm going to do if 1 equals 1, execute some code. You're going to want to indent this line every time you see an open bracket. This is common programming practice. I'm just going to echo if has been executed. Okay. Let's edit this code in the console and see if it works. Okay. The code has been entered and if has been executed. Let's go back and continue the example. I'm going to set this to false by saying 1 equals 2. This should bypass the code. So I'm going to enter it again, and nothing should be displayed. Nothing has been displayed. Okay. If an if statement is passed over, you have the option of creating an else statement. The else statement will be executed if the if statement is false. Okay. Copy it in the code, and else has been executed. You can further define an else statement by else if, and then provide a condition. I'm going to use a textual example where Kevin string Kevin equals string Kevin. Okay, enter this code. The else has been executed, so Kevin does equal Kevin. That actually should be false because we should be using the $ equals instead of equals. Okay, let's test it with the $ equals. Else has been executed. Okay. Now I'm going to try a numbers example, and I'm going to leave the $ to see if it works. I'm just going to say 5 equals 5, let's say. Okay, and it does work. I think it might be because actually I'm not really sure. I think it works in this case because the 5 is converted to a string, and the string 5 does in fact equal 5. However, just beware that $ equals is usually used for text, where equals equals is used for numbers. So it should be this. Okay, I'll make another else statement and just make this false by saying 5 equals 6. Just going to say part 3 for the third code box. Okay, I'm going to enter this in the console, and part 3 is displayed. I would just like to mention that this video is accompanied by additional documentation. You can find this documentation on our website at makeindygames.com. I'll show you a URL right here. And this covers additional topics that I feel haven't been quite addressed in the video, such as arrays, and something I missed entirely, switch statements. I'm going to briefly show you what is covered. So here you have additional examples of arrays along with more theory on how to use them, followed by the topic on switch statements. The last page covers all the code examples from the video. So you can just copy and paste that in the console as you're viewing. Thank you for watching.